Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. When we use the word Arbaeen, which is the 40th in Arabic, it has a lot of importance and significance based on the traditions of the Holy Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And the word 40 itself has many different stages: 40 days, 40 weeks, 40 months, 40 years. All of them have its own significance. And for 40 days, if a person concentrates and becomes sincere, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens up the doors of wisdom from his heart or her heart to their tongue. This is the tradition of the Holy Prophet. Man akhlasa lillahi arba'ina sabahan yaftahu Allahu abwab al-hikmati min qalbihi ila lisanih. So the word 40 itself has a lot of significance. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam went for 40 nights, and that was a miqat of Hazrat Musa. And likewise, the Holy Prophet at the age of 40 announced that he is a messenger. And hence we also have the human evolution where a human child remains in the womb of the mother for 40 weeks, which is 9 months. So likewise, so the 40th itself is the completion of many things. Just as Ghadir is the completion of religion of the Holy Prophet, likewise the Arbaeen or the 40th of Imam Hussain A.S is the completion of Ashura. The message of Imam Hussain A.S completes at Arbaeen, and Ashura is incomplete without Arbaeen. So Ashura, the Shahadat of Imam Hussain A.S has gone through an evolution where Hazrat Zainab Kubra and Imam Sajjad alayhimus salam both went as captives from Karbala to Kufa and then to Halab, and then from Aleppo to Damascus. And then they return on the 40th of Imam Hussain A.S to Karbala. So from Ashura to Arbaeen is extremely important. And hence we all still try and visit Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salatu wasalam on the 40th, because the first Zaireen of Imam Hussain A.S came to Arbaeen, came to Karbala on Arbaeen itself. And many of our great scholars or of our mystics have emphasized that even if only once in a lifetime, do visit Imam Hussain A.S on the 40th, because that is the completion, and that is one of the signs of a mu'min, a believer. There is a hadith by Imam Hussan A.S where he says that alamatul mu'min khamsun, there are 5 signs of a believer: salatu ihda wa khamseen, ziyaratul arba'een, doing 51 rakats, and also visiting Sayyid al-Shuhada, or at least deciding his ziyarat on the 40th. So more than Ashura, the 40th of Imam Hussain A.S is very important to visit Imam Hussain A.S. If you look at the difference of opinion, there are many great scholars who believe it happened. The 40th of Imam Hussain A.S was the first year. It was a 61 Hijrah. 61 Hijrah Ashura, Imam Hussain A.S Shahadat, and then the 40th the same year on Arbaeen, the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam returned to Karbala. But most of the scholars believe it wasn't the first year, it was 62 Hijrah. It was the following year. They both have their own reasoning. Most of the scholars who do not believe it happened the first year, they say historically the time was not long enough for them to go to Damascus and then return. Now, even scholars like Sayyid Ali Qadi Tabatabai, Ali Agha Qadi Tabatabai, who is one of the greatest mystics, he believes that it happened the first year. Many of the great scholars believe that it happened the first year they returned. And many great scholars, historians especially, believe that no, it did not happen the first year they returned. Now, the difference is that they say that the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam reached Damascus on the 1st of Safar, and 20th of Safar is the Arbaeen. So for them to have reached Syria, Damascus on the 1st of Safar, and for everything to happen, and for them to return back to Arbaeen the first year, historically it is not possible. But on the other side, many of the scholars say that all of those masa'ib happened within the 2 weeks, and it was too much for them to handle, the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and they must have returned the first year. So it was too much for them, and Hazrat Sakina or Ruqayya bint al-Hussein passed away the first week. And so all of these masa'ib, but many of our scholars have mentioned that it cannot happen in the first year. So there are all of these differences of opinion, That was it the first Arbaeen 61 Hijrah, or was it the Arbaeen the following year in 62 Hijrah that they returned to Karbala? Well, there can be many reasons, but I will just quickly briefly touch upon a few. If you look at Hazrat Hajra, or Hagar in English as they call her, the mother of Hazrat Ismail, the wife of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, when she gave birth to Hazrat Ismail, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Hazrat Ibrahim to take them to Mecca and leave them there. So Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam said, Biwadin ghayri dhi dhar'in, in the Holy Quran says, in a valley that has no plantation, no water. Allah, it is your order, hence I submit. But I do not understand how they will survive with no plantation and no water. So he was so much in grief, leaving his wife and a newborn child behind, because he was quite elderly. So he left because of order of Allah. Hazrat Hajra, to save his life, she was running between Safa and Marwa, and Hazrat Ismail touched with his feet the ground, and then the water of Zamzam started. And Hazrat Hajra's footsteps are still being followed. We still go to Hajj or Umrah and we walk between Safa and Marwa, because to save the life of a prophet or an infallible, Hazrat Hajra walked between Safa and Marwa, and all of her steps are being followed. Allah has made it a compulsion in religion to follow the footsteps of Hazrat Hajra, and hence we believe that a greater sacrifice was being made in Karbala based on the verses of the Holy Quran from Surah Safat. وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْحٍ عَظِيمٍ. We have replaced it with a greater sacrifice. So it was Imam Hussain A.S. who made that greater sacrifice, and Hazrat Zainab Kubra took all of those steps to save the message of Imam Hussain A.S. So hence we believe that we need to follow the footsteps of Hazrat Zainab Kubra to show our love, compassion and reverence for Imam Hussain A.S. And that was in the shape of Hazrat Zainab Kubra salam alayha, and we imitate every step that she took and the way she tried to walk from a long distance to Karbala. We have to try in our own capacity. Allama Tabatabai says what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Imam Hussain A.S, even many of the prophets, most of the prophets did not ever accomplish and achieve what Imam Hussain A.S achieved in Karbala. What he achieved is something unachievable. But if you never ever set a high goal for yourself, you will never improve. So in Ziyarat-e-Ashura we read, Allahumma ja'al mahyaya mahya Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa mamati mamata Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Oh Allah, give me the life that the Ali Muhammad, the progeny of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam lived. Give me that life, and give me the death that they had. Allah says that you cannot even the prophets didn't have the life or the death that they had in Karbala. So why are we asking for something so great? Number one, when we set a very high goal, then it makes us move in a similar way. That because it's a high goal, the aim is so high, then we'll have to work hard. Even though we know that we'll not be able to accomplish, but we'll work hard to improve from where we are to get as close as possible to Imam Hussain A.S. We will never be able to achieve it. Number two, to place that as our aim and our goal is not that we'll achieve, but to show our love for Imam Hussain A.S, that we are still following the footsteps. Because after Karbala, after Ashura, there are only three practices that people will have. You either have to follow the footsteps of Imam Hussain A.S, to give everything that you have, to sacrifice everything in the way of religion, or you follow the footsteps of Imam Sajjad and Hazrat Zainab Kubra salam alayhima, that you spread that message. Or the third is the practice of Yazid. So to stay away from the practice of Yazid, you have to try and follow one of the two, so that you are on the right path. You're on the path of Imam Hussain A.S, to try and sacrifice, to try and give up, or to try and preach, to try and deliver to other people what Imam Hussain A.S tried to do for religion. And that's what we try and do when commemorating on Arbaeen, that we are on the footsteps of Imam Hussain A.S. We are at least following Imam Hussain. We'll not be able to accomplish, we'll not be able to reach his level, and we know that. But at least we are still on the footsteps of Imam Hussain Islam. We are on the line of Imam Hussain Islam. First of all, as young adults and especially children, Imam Hussain Mustafa has a very beautiful saying where he is saying that, "Oh my children," not just to his own children but to his children and his nephews and nieces when he's dying, when he's been poisoned and he's going through the shahadat. He says, "Listen to my words very carefully. Try and memorize my words, what I'm saying to you. Memorize this will, and if you cannot memorize it, then write it down so you don't ever forget what I'm saying to you. Because today you're children, but tomorrow you'll be leaders. And in your own household at least you'll be leading. So try and memorize everything I say." So every person in their own capacity has to try and learn so they can tomorrow lead. Now, as children, they learn, and as young adults, you also learn and you try and accomplish, you try and achieve, because the more you learn, the higher your recognition, the better you'll be able to practice, the better you'll be able to deliver, the better you'll be able to lead. The society also always needs leaders. What has made us very stagnant is when we want to all just find jobs. And that makes us servants and not leaders. And in a Muslim society, every individual has to have the ability to lead and become just and become knowledgeable, become learned and become a leader tomorrow. And then amongst the leaders, the best leader will lead. The person who has the best capability, the best ability to lead. But it does not mean that the others do not have the capability of leading. They all should have the capability of leading. We believe that if all messengers of Allah were in one city, there will be no difference of opinion amongst them, because all of them have the same goal in life, and that goal is God, that goal is Allah. And hence we believe that every individual should try and become a leader, even if they do not lead, but they have the capability. So every individual. Now, one of the other downsides is that many a times people who, when they are young, when they are students, they keep improving and moving forward. But there comes an age where they become stagnant and say, "I do not wish to improve anymore," or "I'm no longer on that journey." That should never happen, because, many of the scholars say that never be pleased with yourself, never be satisfied. That's it, I'm now very good, I don't need to improve anymore. The room for improvement is always open. And you should always, never ever be happy with yourself that I'm done now, I don't need to improve anymore. So all your life, throughout your life, even in old age, you should be improving and getting closer and closer to God and to the Hujjah and to, so this is the real goal in life. And there are materialistic things that we can achieve in this life, but there should be spiritual efforts that we have to try and make to improve. One of the teachers in Ummat used to say that many du'as we ask are all materialistic or worldly du'as. But what about some of like Munajat Shabaniya or the Dua Rajabiyya, which is everything about the hereafter, about the paradise. Why even in the paradise do we think about the Hurul Ain and the palaces and the food? What about that spiritual journey in the hereafter, the evolution? God Himself, the Holy Prophet, the Imams and the learning process, because even the paradise will not be stagnant. There will always be takamul, there will be an evolution happening there. Evolution, I'm not talking about the scientific evolution, I'm talking about the spiritual evolution. So there will always be improvement, and that's what because no one can completely comprehend God. So there will always be improvement in our comprehension and our understanding, and that's what needs to accomplish. Now, they all set an example. The Imam Hussain set an example for us. So becoming role models, and they're setting Example was the biggest accomplishment. Now each and every individual in Karbala set an example for the oncoming generations. Hazrat Qasim A.S, even being young and so full of life, you all want to live as young individuals. No one wants to die young. No one wants to die at the age of 20, 18, 19, and he's only 13 and a half. But at 13 years of age, he says to Imam Hussain A.S, Uncle, am I one of the Shuhada of Karbala? Am I going to be taken as a Shaheed? So Imam Hussain A.S, Kayf al-mawtu indak? How do you see death? What is death in your view? So he says, Ahla min al-asal, more sweet than the honey. And this is a sign that he is, still a child, because children love sweets. So he says, it is sweeter than the honey. So Imam Hussain A.S says, not only you, but even Ali Asghar will become shaheed. Look at the love he has for death that even elderly people do not have, that they want to die. But because the death is for a purpose, is for the righteousness, is for the justice, is for God, is for the Imam of his time, he is willing to sacrifice even being so young, and he feels that it is better than anything that he may achieve, because he understands that the sacrifice is for a greater cause, for a bigger good. And that's what he teaches, that even being so young, if you have a greater good, you can give everything you have.
And the next on our list is Hazrat Abbas. What did he teach us?
Hazrat Abbas A.S has many aspects to his life. He's the greatest Shaheed after Imam Hussain A.S. And if you go to Karbala, all Shuhada are in one place. But Hazrat Abbas A.S has his own haram, because he's the greatest Shaheed after Imam Hussain A.S in Karbala. So the Imams have given him a separate haram, his own haram. Hazrat Abbas A.S, how did he get his own haram? Being the bravest, being the strongest, being the greatest warrior after the Imam A.S in his time. When Imam tells him, go and ask them to give us one more day. Don't fight today on the 9th. Give us one more night. We want to spend in worshipping God. Imam Hussain could have asked anyone, but he asked Hazrat Abbas. It was the most difficult for Hazrat Abbas A.S to go and speak to the people who've come to fight him or to kill Imam Hussain A.S. And this is the greatest jihad, when you go against your will, your desires. He had come to ask Imam Hussain A.S, can I go and fight them because they've attacked us? Imam Hussain says, no, don't fight them. Go and ask them for one more night. Now when Imam Hussain is giving them more time so they can think, and Hor can come and other things can happen, so he's giving them time by saying, give us more time. And he asks Hazrat Abbas A.S to go and ask for that time. It was most difficult for Hazrat Abbas to go and ask for the time, but he still did it. He went against his desires for the Imam of his time. He is the most faithful to Imam Hussain A.S. And he showed his faithfulness. When he went, Shimr was related to his mother from far. So he says straight away that I have brought you Aman Nama, that you are as peace, you can come over if you want. He said, I wouldn't even talk to you had it not been for my brother and my Imam, who's ordered me to speak to you and say that stop the battle for at least a night. Do not give me any protection. I do not want any protection from you. I have my master, my Imam, my Maula, Hussain ibn Ali. That faithfulness, at the time of death or at the time when you know that this battle is, astaghfirullah, in worldview, it is a lost battle. We'll all die. It will finish. Everyone would want protection and life. But Hazrat Abbas says, I will give everything I have to show that Imam is worth and the hereafter is worth more than anything else. Whole on the 2nd of Muharram had stopped Imam Hussain A.S. When he first came, he was thirsty with a group of 1,000 soldiers. So Imam Hussain had enough water for 1,000 soldiers, but he said, give them. I do not wish to have the water. But this is, you see, the message of Imam Hussain A.S. When you have something, give it up if someone needs it more than you. So he sacrificed all the water. And then when Imam Hussain A.S. said to her that it is time for prayer, I think it was Dhuhr time, so he said, go and pray with your people. He said, how can I lead the prayers separately in your presence, O Hussein? So Imam Hussain A.S. understood that he has the ability to follow. So when Imam Hussain led the prayers, they all prayed behind him. But when he was about to leave, Hur came and stopped Imam Hussain. He said, I'm not going to let you go. I came to arrest you. I cannot allow you to go to Kufa. So Imam Hussain A.S. said something to him, Sakalat Kaumuk, may your mother bereave you, meaning may you die. Now Hur thought a little and he wanted to repeat that sentence to Imam Hussain. And he said, oh Hussein, if anyone said this to me in Iraq, I would repeat the same words. But I can't say it to you because your mother is Fatima, salamun alayha. Many scholars say that Imam Hussain only said it to him, not as a swear word, but to remind him whose son is Hussein, or who is Hussein's mother, and that's what made him think. And when he reflected upon this fact that Imam Hussain A.S. is a son of Fatima and the grandson of the Holy Prophet, he kept thinking and thinking until when Shab-e Ashur, when the 9th of Muharram, Imam Hussain said, okay, one more night. When the 6th Imam was asked, Mawla, how can tafakkuru sa'atan afdala min ibadati sab'ina sana? Or sabina alf sana, for example. There are traditions that thinking for an hour can be better than 70 years of worship or 70,000 years of worship. He said, how? He said, like that of Hur. He thought for an hour and he converted himself from being an inhabitant of the hell to become an inhabitant of the paradise. He converted from the hell to paradise just with 1 hour's thinking. He said, no, I'm not going to remain in hell. I'm going to go to paradise. He quickly converted and said, okay, I'm going home. And that's thinking of an hour. When you think deeply, you can change your life, the positive energy you pick up, and change your entire life. He changed his entire life with a few moments of thinking. That's the lesson from Hur. His repentance, his love, his sacrifice, and his thinking, his reflection. There are many lessons, but the first lesson to me is the submission to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That above everything is the will of Allah. Oh Allah, because you see, he himself says that when he was leaving Medina, he went to the grave of his grandfather, the Holy Prophet, and he cried so much that he fainted, on the grave, and he embraced the grave. And he says that I saw that when I have dropped on the grave of my grandfather, he got up and he embraced me and he said, Ya Hussein, inna Allah sha'a an yaraka qatila. It is the mashiyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is irada and there is mashiyat. The divine intent and the divine will. Irada is less than mashiyat. In Allah sha'a an yaraka qatila, the mashiyat of Allah, the divine will is to see you as a martyr, as a shaheed. Not just the intent of Allah, but the divine will, because the sacrifice of all prophets is going to end if you do not sacrifice. And he said, what about my sisters? He said, the mashiyat of Allah, the divine will, is that they become captives and they save your message, otherwise your message will die if they do not sacrifice. So the first thing Imam Hussain A.S. did was submit to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No matter what happens, I will submit and I'll be strong to sacrifice everything. Second thing was that he never showed any weakness. He was strong. The enemies say that as the day was passing by, the glory on Imam Hussein's face was becoming greater and greater. He wasn't becoming weaker and weakened by the day. He was becoming greater by the day. As the day was passing by, he would be stronger. There was no weakness in Imam Hussain. The majesty, the jalal on his face was greater in the time of Asr than at the time of Fajr. Even though the hunger and thirst is increasing, but his greatness is increasing. He's becoming stronger. So the trial wasn't making him weak, it was making him stronger, because he was succeeding in his trial, in the tribulations and trials that he was going through. He was becoming stronger. So that's the second message. The third message from Imam Hussain A.S.'s life, that even after going through all those trials, there is no complaint. He says, "O Allah, your servant is before you. Ridan bi qada'i wa tasliman li amrih." Ridan bi qada'ihi wa taslim. You know, I am truly pleased with whatever you have destined for me. I'm not angry. I have no displeasure. Wa tasliman li amrih. And I have totally submitted myself to whatever you have willed for me. I will not complain. And the fourth message, I can continue many messages, but the fourth message would be that even after all of those sacrifices, you learn to live through death. Yazid lived, but he died even though he was alive. And Imam Hussain A.S. taught us to live even after death. Death cannot kill you if your aim is high. If your aim is God, then even after death you will live. And many people are just living deads, living dead bodies. Yazid was a living dead, and Hussain is he's a being that lives even through shahadat, even after death he lives. And many people are just dead, walking about. So he taught a lesson that you can live. Don't worry about death. Don't be frightened of death. You will even live through death. And that's one of the greatest lessons here. The Holy Quran says that the early Muslims, when they converted, they became isolated. So God says, do not feel isolated. Tell them, my messenger, that angels come down upon them and they are surrounded by angels. Because they're isolated, they feel that we're isolated from human beings. What about the angels that are around you? Now, Sayyid al-Shuhada ﷺ taught a lesson that, many people always claim that I will fight till the last drop of blood in my body. But they never fulfilled. I will fight till the last soldier, till the last arrow that I have. They had the weapons, they had the soldiers, and they gave up. Imam Hussain said it, and he performed it. Till the last soldier, till the last arrow, till the last drop of blood in his body. He stood up against evil. He stood up against falsehood. He stood up against injustice, against oppression. He stood up and he fought till the last drop of blood in his body. And he proved it, that it can be done. And after lifting the bodies of all the shuhada, he stood so strong. And hence Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyataha nafsul mutma'inna, irji'i ila rabbika radiyatan mardiyah, fadkhuli fi ibadi wadkhuli jannati. In the first words of the verse, you feel that an angel is calling back. But in the last verse, you understand that it is God directly speaking. This is Quran. Ya ayyataha nafsul mutma'inna, oh tranquil, satisfied soul. Irji'i ila rabbika radiyatan mardiyah. Return to thy Lord in the state that you are pleased with him and he is pleased with you. This could be an angel speaking so far. Fadkhuli fi ibadi wadkhuli jannati. Come and become a part of my ibad, my servants, and enter my paradise. Now we know that it is not an angel speaking, it is God himself speaking. Even though you're so isolated that you have no one now, but you are so high that God is saying that you are in my company. I am calling you back myself. And that's what Imam Hussain A.S. lived. First of all, Imam Hussain was left. He had the best companions. He said that I have the best companions that even my grandfather, my father and my brother did not have. They would ask their companions to come back and they would not. And I'm telling them to leave and they would not. So Imam al-Hujjah will have the best companions. He'll have the best 313. Better than any prophet, better than any imam. First of all. Secondly, he is still isolated. Just like Imam Hussain was left after the companions were all martyred. Imam is, for 1100 years, he is by himself. He may have a company of the Khidr or, one or two with him, but he's isolated, he's all alone. Third, Imam Hussain openly stood up against injustice and oppression. And Sahib Zamana Islam will do the same. He will openly declare that you're either on his side or you're against him. You're either with him or against him. There is no third option. You cannot be neutral. Just like in Karbala, you're either Hussaini or you're Yazidi. You cannot be neutral. Likewise, you'll either be Imam Zamani or against him. So there's no third option. You cannot say that I'm neutral. Now, one of the things that Imam Zamana Islam will do, he'll announce 5 times, Allah ya Ahl al-Alam, or people of the world or universe, people in this universe, or inhabitants of this universe. Inna Jaddi al-Hussain qataluhu udwanan, or sahaquhu, 5 times he'll announce. And everyone will hear in their own language that it is my grandfather Hussain who they had killed with injustice. So he'll not introduce himself through anyone else but Imam Hussain A.S. because 2 reasons. One, that everyone will have heard about Imam Hussain and Karbala. And secondly, everyone will truly believe that yes, it was injustice that happened against Hussain. It was oppression that happened. When everyone admits that he was oppressed, because there's no one more oppressed than Imam Hussain A.S., then he will say, okay, now that you admit that he was most oppressed, I am his successor. That's why he is the true son of Imam Hussain and he's a true Hussain of this time.
When we say that when everyone's going to be hearing about Karbala and every soul on this earth will know about what Karbala was, do we, as Shia, do we have a duty to go out there and tell people about Karbala when we ourselves have not understood Karbala fully?
Even just that people, if they hear about Karbala, Karbala is such a, even if you don't understand, just to introduce Karbala, because it makes people move and read and try and understand. It is the only incident that moves people, that yes, there is no way anyone can defend Yazid. There is no way anyone can ever defend Yazid, but everyone will defend Imam Hussain A.S. Now, and hence we have Arbaeen, and hence we have this great march, and the world will know, the entire world will know. And even if you go back 100 years, even 50 years, majority of the world did not know about Imam Hussain. Majority of the world did not even have majalis for Imam Hussain. But today, every single country in the world has majalis for Imam Hussain. Every single continent has majalis. Every big city in the world has remembrance for Imam Hussain. This, within our lives in the past 50 years that has happened, was unthinkable even 100 years ago. And what will happen in the next 10 to 20, 30 years is unthinkable, because every single person will know, as Arbaeen has become the most focused event in the year. The largest non-political gatherings in the world are all in Karbala, and Arbaeen is the largest gathering. Millions and millions of people are now attending. This will surely move the world and bring about a change, and that will not be reversed. There is a letter to everyone, and that is, whenever Muharram comes every year, there is an invitation from Imam Hussain A.S. for everyone to think of the sacrifice. It's a reminder. It's something that no matter how much you may be busy in your life, you will still think about, attend, and be a part of, even if you are not religious. Even people who are not religious and they do not attend mosque on regular basis. But Muharram is a time when everyone moves, and that is their invitation letter from Imam Hussain. Whenever Muharram comes, they have an invitation. No one invites anyone. People ask when Muharram is coming, because they know Imam Hussain A.S. is coming. It is not Muharram that is coming. It is Imam Hussain coming into our lives again, becoming a part of our lives again. And it's a reminder of his sacrifice, a reminder of the tribulations he went through, and the reminder that we are a part of his life. And we need to become true Hussainis.